our next speaker is Mel at Radical Relating. Mel also was the person who came up with the resource list that I shared earlier in the chat. I'll be sharing it again once I find the link. And thank you for putting that together, Mel. And Mel will be sharing about their journey in trauma-informed relating and exploring somatic practices for resilience in non-monogamy and beyond. So let me unmute and spotlight. There we go.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. My name's Mel. I just popped my brief bio in the chat, and I'm really glad that we're coming together to do this for Palestine. I grew up in the Middle East. I have a strong affinity and history with the Middle East and all the peoples in that area. So I'm here to talk about trauma-informed relating. And what I'm going to do is a very, very brief, condensed exploration of this and try to make it practical for you. So trauma is defined as too much, too soon, too fast. Trauma is what happens when there is so much going on that our nervous systems are not able to actually process what happened. And for some of us, it feels like our nervous system gets frozen in time, trying to process it. That's why sometimes we have flashbacks to a moment, because there's a part of our brain, a part of our nervous system that's still trying to make sense of that moment. Very often in those moments of overwhelm, we engage our self-protective and self-defensive responses. Now, some other speakers have talked about some of these: the fight, the flight, the freeze, the fawn responses. And I think it's really important that we recognize that in non-monogamy, we might have those responses arise not just when things are overwhelming in a bad way, but also sometimes they come up when things are overwhelming in a good way. You know, that feeling of being a kid in the candy store, that feeling when you finally get to like Pokemon polyamory, date all the people, have all the experiences you've been dreaming of. That is a lot of stimulation for the nervous system. And in addition to that, when you're exploring non-monogamy with very little guide posts, very little mapping of where to go, how to understand what you're experiencing, this can add to the overwhelm. You know, when I started exploring solo polyamory, which is now 13 years ago, there wasn't even a term of solo polyamory. There were no resources. And so there was very little to help me orient to what was going on. And I very quickly got overwhelmed by the good things. I was excited. I wanted to make up for lost time. And I found that it was very hard to actually access pleasure sometimes. All that excitement was so intoxicating, and I didn't want to slow down. When things were hard, I wanted to push through the difficult experiences, thinking that that would get me back to the pleasure. I very much embodied that keep calm, carry on, just keep going, keep going, keep going. And that actually made it harder. Over time, my nervous system built up more and more stress, more and more stimulation, and that overwhelm led to a freeze response, which is kind of like that, you know, when your computer's doing too many things and you get that blue screen of death come up. That's the freeze response. And your body goes, no, we can't do anything more. So what I learned was that accessing pleasure came through slowing down and through working in trauma-informed ways to release the stress and the tension of all that overwhelm. So I want to invite you right now to practice something with me. This is a little bit of orientation practice. We're going to slow down. We're going to orient to our senses. So take a moment and just look around your space. Look at something that catches your eye. I'm looking at the painting that's above my desk and just enjoying the brush strokes, looking at the texture of the canvas. Take a moment to really observe one thing that is in your space. And now take a moment to tune into the sounds that you hear in the space. Maybe you hear the sound of my voice. Maybe you hear the sounds outside you in the street. Maybe there's music in the background. And then take a moment to tune into the felt sensations in your body, if that feels comfortable for you. Maybe just touch your own clothing, touch your hair, just feel those sensations. Now I'm going to invite you to explore what it's like to just release a little bit of self protection. So, if you're someone who has a strong flight response that you always want to run away, or maybe you feel like you move really fast, I want to invite you to just lift your feet up one at a time as if you're walking. Just move your feet as if you are running away. And if that's not available to you, you can just wiggle your hips from side to side. And then if you're someone who has a very strong fight response that you like to dig your heels in and defend yourself, I want to invite you to just bring your hands up. Imagine you're pushing against something and then just slowly, slowly push that thing away. And then when you feel complete in that, just let your arms drop and wiggle your shoulders. And then if you're someone who goes into numbness, who goes into a freeze response, sometimes you have a hard time feeling what you're feeling, I want to invite you to just shake your body out. And then just wiggle through all your joints. Wiggle through your fingers, your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, moving through your legs, your hips, stretching one leg out the other, rotating your ankles, wiggling your toes. Taking a deep breath and just letting that out with a sigh. There is so much potential for these trauma and self protective responses to get locked into our bodies, especially when there is so much joyful stimulation to find in non monogamy. And a lot of my work is really focused around how we can apply these principles into our relationships. So, this is just a little practical embodied taster. If you're interested in knowing more, I have lots of resources available, and you can always ask me more questions. Thank you so much for your time. And I just wanted to finish with one little invocation here, which is that as we grow our awareness of our nervous systems, may that support us in being able to show up in care and support for everyone. May we all stand together in the quest for healing from traumas that constrict our relating. May we be more open to seeing the ways in which our heart's longings are connected. And may our search for liberated love include liberation for all. And may we see Palestine and all other oppressed and dehumanized peoples be free. Thank you so much, everybody.